Take a coin or a banknote out of your pocket, hold it in your hand, it's just a piece of metal or paper. No real value on its own. You can't eat it, you can't build a house from it, you can't stay warm with it. It's worth exactly as much as people have agreed to believe it's worth. And that is the most astonishing thing in all of human history. Money works only because everyone around you believes that it works. It is the most successful shared myth that human beings have ever invented. But how did this myth come to exist? Where did the idea come from that one object could be exchanged for another through an intermediary, money? And why, across thousands of years, have people paid with seashells, salt, enormous stone wheels, and pieces of leather? Let's find out. Let's start at the very beginning. For tens of thousands of years, people lived without money at all, and they managed just fine. The system was called barter, direct exchange. You have fish, I have grain, let's trade. You have an axe, I have a hide, done. Simple, clear, no middleman. But barter had one enormous problem. Imagine you are a potter and you want to buy bread. You go to the baker, but the baker doesn't need pots. He needs sandals. You go to the cobbler, but the cobbler doesn't need pots. He needs fish. You go to the fisherman, and on it goes in circles. Economists call this the double coincidence of wants. Both parties in the exchange must simultaneously want exactly what the other has to offer. In practice, this almost never happened. That is precisely why people began searching for a universal intermediary, something that everyone would accept in exchange for anything. And so, the first money was born. It looked nothing like what we use today. The first money in human history was the cowrie shell, small white shells of a sea mollusk. They were used as currency in China, India, Africa, and even the Americas, simultaneously. On different continents, people independently arrived at the same solution. Why shells? They are light, durable, difficult to fake, beautiful, and easy to count. The perfect currency. In China, cowrie shells were used as money for more than 3,000 years, from the Bronze Age through the Middle Ages. But shells are just the beginning. At different times in different parts of the world, money took the form of grain in ancient Egypt, salt in Rome, animal hides in Siberia, pressed tea bricks in China and Mongolia, cacao beans among the Aztecs. Yes, literal chocolate was money. And even sperm whale teeth on the islands of Fiji. But the most extraordinary example comes from the island of Yap in the Pacific Ocean. The islanders used enormous stone discs, called rai, as currency. Some weighed several tons and stood as tall as a person. Moving them was impossible. So the islanders simply agreed verbally, "This stone now belongs to you, even though it physically sits in my yard." Around 600 BCE, in the small kingdom of Lydia, in what is now Turkey, an event occurred that would permanently change the global economy. The Lydian king Croesus, the very one people mean when they say rich as Croesus, ordered coins to be struck from electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. Each coin bore the royal stamp, a guarantee of its weight and purity. No longer did merchants need to weigh every piece of metal at every transaction. The coin already carried its own proof of value. The idea spread with astonishing speed. Greeks, Persians, Romans all adopted the coin system and refined it. The Roman monetary system became so sophisticated that it covered territory stretching from Britain to Mesopotamia. But the Romans also committed the first great financial fraud in history. When the empire needed more money, authorities began secretly adding copper and tin to silver coins, reducing the precious metal content while keeping the appearance the same. The coins looked identical, but were worth less. This is called coin debasement, and it was one of the causes of the economic crisis that contributed to Rome's fall. While we are talking about money, we cannot skip banks, because banks appeared even before coins. The first banks in history were temples. In ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, the temples of the gods were the safest places in any city. Thick walls, armed guards, divine protection. People brought grain, oil, silver, anything of value, and the priests stored it against a written receipt. Gradually, the priests began lending these reserves out, at interest. A farmer could take grain in spring, plant it, harvest his crop, and return it with a small addition. This was the first loan in history. The oldest debt receipts found by archaeologists in Mesopotamia date to around 3000 BCE. 5,000 years ago, someone was already in debt. In ancient Greece, private money changers called trapezitai appeared. They sat behind tables in the marketplaces, exchanging coins from different city-states and extending credit to merchants. The word bank itself comes from the word for table, in Italian, banco. When a money changer went bankrupt, his table was broken apart right there in the market, which is where the word bankrupt comes from, banco rotto, meaning broken table. The next revolution in monetary history happened in China, and Europe had no idea for a very long time. In the 7th century CE, under the Tang dynasty, Chinese merchants invented a brilliant way to avoid carrying heavy copper coins on long trading journeys. They would leave their coins at special offices and receive a paper receipt in return. This receipt could be presented in another city to collect the coins back. These were, in effect, the first banknotes in history. By the 11th century, the Chinese government began printing official paper money, jiaozi. This was a fundamental shift. Money no longer had inherent material value. Its worth rested entirely on trust in the state. In the 13th century, Marco Polo traveled to China and witnessed paper money firsthand. Returning to Europe, he wrote about it in his book. Europeans read it and concluded he had lost his mind. Money made of paper? Paper is worthless. It's impossible. Nearly 400 more years passed before Europe finally accepted paper money. The first European bank to issue banknotes, Sweden's Stockholm's Banco, did so in 1661, 6 centuries after China. Today, the vast majority of money in the world does not physically exist. It is simply numbers in computer databases. Physical cash accounts for less than 8% of the total money supply on the planet. Everything else is electronic records. In 2009, Bitcoin appeared, the first decentralized digital currency in history. No central bank, no government. Only mathematics and the trust of millions of people. It was the most radical idea in the history of money since the Kingdom of Lydia. And here is what is fascinating. Over 5,000 years of history, money has changed its form endlessly. Shells, stones, metal, paper, plastic, digits. But one thing has never changed. Money works only because people believe that it works. Remove the belief, and any money becomes worthless. Add belief, and a seashell becomes a currency. That is the most important thing to understand about money. It doesn't live in your pocket, it lives in your mind. Money has traveled from a shell on a beach to a number on a smartphone screen. Over 5,000 years, it was a tool of trade and a tool of power. Wars began because of it, and empires collapsed. People crossed oceans for it and betrayed friends over it. Cities were built with it, and discoveries were funded through it. But at its very core, money is simply an agreement, a collective belief that this object is worth something. The next time you hold a coin in your hand, remember, in that small circle of metal sits 5,000 years of human history. Babylonian priests, a Lydian king, Chinese merchants, Marco Polo, and billions of people who wake up every day and silently agree. Yes, this is worth something. Because everyone decided so. And that changes everything.